Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. And you can also join us in the Freedom Zone, ladies and gentlemen. Click this button right here. You can see it right here. Click the drop down and join us in the Patreon or YouTube. This is the Freedom Zone, and you know what? You get every single video every single day with 0 Google ads, and that in itself is worth the price of admission for less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month and extra content. And today, we're going to get into the United States tax structure may be completely wiped out. And what's going to go in place? We're going to talk about it. And more crimes and cover-up. Make sure you join us inside. Let's take a look at the market at $2.81 trillion right now. We're up 0.4 in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin 83,000 plus, Ethereum 1,800 plus, XRP number 4 spots 213. We're up 2.4 in the last 24 hours like the rest of the top of the market here. We're still off 12.7 on the 7-day. Let's look at the range of price. Ranging between 207, which we hit yesterday, to 215. We're at the top side of that range. It appears we may be turning around. Is it too soon to say? Well, you know what? We'll take a look at that before we get out of here today, too. Lots to cover, and it's all big. How about XRP Las Vegas big? Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Make the investment into yourself. I got an announcement to make. Greg Kidd, that owns the brick and mortar Vast Bank, that is launching a stablecoin from a bank. The first one to do it. Deposit tokens. Yeah. On stage at XRP Las Vegas, our first functioning bank on stage. Come on in. Yeah. Brad Garlinghouse, Simon McLaughlin, Keith Grossman, you name it. Kevin Maloney. Listen, this is all I can say is make the investment into yourself. These 2 days will be fun and you will never forget them. But I tell you what, we're also going to make sure you got the notepad you need and the rest of it to take notes, because you're going to learn things at this event that you will never learn anywhere else. Get your ticket at XRPLasVegas.com. New Ripple advertisement near the Empire State Building. You know they just took over DC. Loving this for us. Binance, one of the biggest cryptocurrency exchanges, has finally stopped spot trading pairs for USD Tether and 8 other stablecoins in the European Economic Area, known as the EEA. Now, listen, I've been pounding the ground on this since 22, 3 years, 21 or 22, 3 or 4 years here. Big Skinny and I used to have the greatest conversations about Tether. We used to say, you know, if I was a government and I wanted to get this crypto under control, we used to go through these thought exercises. And we'd say, we'd take a topic of Tether. Now, if I'm the U.S. government and I want to get it under control, what would I do? Well, I would look at the bottleneck. Where's the bottleneck? It's at exchanges. Okay. Then I would deem it non-compliant through regulation or legislation and then force it off of the platform. Well, how does that give governments control of anything? Well, in a couple ways it does. So one, what you're doing is that all the little teeny coins that only have one way into them, which is normally USD Tether before anything else, you kill Tether, you kill 90% plus of the cryptocurrency market right now. And in fact, I've made the argument multiple times on this channel, that's the reason we see ETFs for Bitcoin. Because it's a new source of liquidity, and as they prime that new liquidity source for ETFs, which is traditional retail investors, they can start to wean off of USD Tether because it's non-compliant. Well, we'll see how this all unfolds. Tether is currently on the outside looking in the next 2 years. RLUSD lock-in. The House's stable bill has a provision that a 2-year window for foreign issuers, such as Tether, to meet certain criteria and standards. The House's versions 2 years transition is more than adequate, Hill added. So you have a 2-year period if this passes where Tether is on the outside, whether they like it or not. Think of it for a moment. I asked you yesterday at this very important meeting here about stablecoins with Adrian Harris, that's in charge of the NYDFS, one of the most coveted licenses for digital assets. And I looked everywhere at this table, and Paulo Ardoino from Tether is not sitting there. Is this the start of that 2 years? Jack McDonald was there. Then we see RLUSD getting hot. 50 million real USD minted just like that, instantly. And now all of a sudden, that 50 million added now puts us past $244 million in market cap for real USD. Come on in. Yeah. See, if I didn't know any better, I think they were starting to prepare for these 5,000 banks that can now enter into the crypto market, thanks to the FDIC lifting the chokehold that they had. And here's new news on the Stable Act in the House of Representatives versus the Genius Act, which is in the Senate. Both of them are stablecoin bills. Here's the latest from Eleanor Terrett. Representative Brian Steele tells her that after Wednesday's markup that the Stable Act will be positioned to mirror up with the Senate's Genius Act following a few more draft rounds in the House and Senate with technical assistance from the SEC and CFTC. He believes that 20% of the bill that deviates from the Genius Act represents merely textual differences rather than anything significant or substantive, which is good, right? Just language that needs to fall in line with the Genius Act so there's no differences there. Right now, the biggest differences are the requirements for international stablecoin issuers. Like I just told you, state oversight of issuers and some smaller technical differences between the two texts. At the end of the day, I think there's recognition that they want to work with our Senate colleagues to get this across the line, Steele said. That's fantastic news for all of us. And look at where we're going. I'm about to play this clip for you. Shout out to Smoke Dog. Ripple comes up in the discussion on integrating crypto data into ISO messages. Remember, ISO tokens is not really a thing. It doesn't exist. That's slang for people who believe that there will be certain tokens that will be used for a utility use case inside the financial system. A lot of those tokens have been deemed ISO tokens, even though that's not really a thing. It's the slang so you don't have to explain what I just explained right now every time you talk about it. ISO deals with messaging and rich data collection. And listen to what he says here.
68, or basically we still have a study group on TC68 level, looking at the implications of CDBC as well as other digital currencies like your Bitcoins, Ethers, Ripples, etc., etc. It's probably a bit early stages, but what we can definitely say, a number of standards will actually be applied. On the one hand, you have to question whether a digital currency would get a currency code, like these 3-letter currency code that I've been mentioning. Answer for CDBC would be most likely yes. A digital version of central bank money could get a 3-letter ISO currency code, but not any non-fiat digital currency like Bitcoin or Ether. What we have developed with the DTI, and Sandra and I have spoken about that, is an identifier, an ISO identifier, which is specifically suited to the digital ecosystem, and each digital currency can get a DTI, and most digital currencies like Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Cardano, etc., have already been allocated a digital token identifier. The register.
That means they are already set up to be embraced in the system and to be eligible in the system. And don't forget, XRP, the X stands for non-sovereign money. That's what the X is for. That's why Bitcoin doesn't have an X, because it's not money.
Of the DTI is public, and you can basically access it through any web browser and download that data. 68.
There you have it. So there we know where we're going, and there's why we have trouble with USD Tether fitting in. BlackRock CEO says every stock, every bond, every fund, every asset can be tokenized. He's right. That's where the world's going. And that's exactly why I am here. No question about it. And do we think that they're going to do all of those things and not update the government too? That's what I think people are missing about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. And by the way, Elon Musk made it very clear they're not going to use the DOGE token for anything. The Department of Government Efficiency, however, has gone in and scanned for waste, abuse, and fraud in every government agency, or that's the intention. And the reality for me is, do you think they're just doing that and then going back to business? Thank God we took care of that. No, that's not what's happening. They're getting ready to put everything onto a new system, a new blockchain. Is it Chainlink? Is it Stellar? Is it XRP-Ledger? I don't know. But I know that's what they're going to do. They're modernizing the payment system after they scan for all the waste, abuse, and fraud, so they don't tokenize it onto the new system. So they're not going to do every stock, every bond, and every other product that can be tokenized of value and not do the government too. That wouldn't make a lot of sense, now would it? Meanwhile, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, boy, he really is chiming in these days. Yesterday, we covered that he also warned that the US dollar is at risk of losing its world reserve currency status to digital assets like Bitcoin. This is the original problem. And there is a plan to protect the US dollar status as the world reserve currency. It's called the XRP Ledger. I went over it with Greg Kidd. And that's why I believe this is why we're seeing a meeting with President Trump to travel to Saudi Arabia in May for talks with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And why? I believe, this is my belief, because Saudi Arabia is the one that we have the Petrodollar agreement with. Write this down. They may not even publicly bring up what this meeting is really about. Remember that Saudi Arabia said they're going to put $1 trillion plus into the U.S. economy over the next 4 years. Now, or I think it's 4 years. But nonetheless, this is a remarkable picture and a remarkable moment because I believe a lot of this talk is about how they're going to transition the U.S. dollar off of the petrodollar system and move it to a basket of commodities that support the dollar's dominance. And it will work for the next 150 years. Listen to what I asked Craig. Look, I know you've heard it before, but what did I just show you? Larry Fink from BlackRock, 11 trillion assets under management. Government goes to them when they're in trouble, saying there's a problem with the dollar. And you know what? And in May, Trump's going to go see the guy that keeps our dollar exclusively traded as a global reserve currency, which they did not do last year. Oh, okay. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with the fact of this. It stands to reason that that's the way you would want to go. I had a conversation a long time ago, back in 2019, with David Schwartz, where I was talking with him about, having reserves of all kinds of different assets from all over this sector of, whether it's commodities or alike, really stabilize it. If you could underpin the dollar with all of those things, instead of just an agreement to print more or just a petrodollar agreement, then you really would have the confidence of a dollar for the next 150 years. What say you?
I agree.
Oh, that wasn't very tough.
But I mean, you really said it well. To me, it's just a risk to not take that risk.
Right. There it is. It's a risk to not take that risk. And I think that's what got President Trump going to Saudi Arabia in May. And I think that's what's got Larry Fink saying that they could lose the dollar status, and it isn't just because of Bitcoin. That's what I believe. Eggrag Crypto says $27 in the next 60 days. Historical patterns indicate it can be done in 60 days. What's your take on the current market sentiments? Are you feeling bearish or bullish? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop him a comment. Well, I tell you what, I am bullish, and I would love to see that happen. I don't know if it will, and I know he doesn't either, but he's saying the chart is showing us evidence that it certain enough could. there is a certain enough probability to make it a conversation. And I know that means we have to watch out for it for that next 60-day window. We're in it now. How amazing would that be to know that 60 days from now, we could be at $27 or 15, who knows, 10, I don't know, 8. Shit, I wouldn't be upset about none of it. But that's what we're staring down the barrel of. And I couldn't be happier to be doing it with all of you. That is for sure about that, no doubt. Listen, not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the freedom zone. As I said, the United States tax structure may be changing drastically, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to get into that today in good measure. So I hope you will join us. And crimes and cover-up. Oh boy, again, not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the freedom zone. Click that join button and come on in. All right.